The revenue estimating group said this morning that it now estimates general fund revenue for this fiscal year that ends June the 30th will actually be $466.5 million below the original estimate upon which the appropriations made by the last legislature were based. As Dr. Pepper said from the podium, that does not include the shortfall in the Education Enhancement Fund, which some of you may know is a 1% sales tax, and it goes into generally education. When you include the shortfall in the EEF for the Education Enhancement Fund, the total shortfall based on the Revenue Estimating Committee's work will be $499.1 million. Therefore, I have today ordered spending cuts across state government of an additional approximately $41 million, so that the total cut would be $499.1 million. With this, we hopefully are making the last cuts of the year. The only way I would make further cuts will be if revenue actually goes below the $499 shortfall before the end of the year. We only have 3 months left for departments and agencies to achieve savings. So I have tried to stay ahead of this all year, but as you can see, the revenue shortfall has gotten worse and worse. February's revenue was 12.58% below the estimate. It was mentioned today that halfway through March, the revenue is actually above the estimate. But if you look at last year, halfway through March, revenue was also very far, even more above the estimate, but by the end of March, it came in under the estimate. So mid-month figures don't mean much because most people are smart enough to wait and pay their taxes at the end of the month and hold on to their money as long as they can. That's why, as Dr. Pepper said and others said, nobody's ever paid much attention to what the revenue was in the middle of a month. It doesn't mean anything. Now, this brings us to fiscal year 11. And I will say very directly what I implied at the committee meeting. It is clear to me that the revenue estimate for 2011 is too high. Revenue in 2009 fell 4.2% below 2008. Revenue this year is now estimated to fall 6.3% below 2009. And while I believe the shortfall will not be as bad next year, I am very skeptical that we'll go from a 6.3% shortfall into positive ground in 1 year. That's why I was very glad to hear the state treasurer say that the only reason he had confidence in this revenue estimate was because the law requires us to only or allows us to only appropriate 98% of the revenue estimate. That has been waived sometimes in the past, particularly in the first 5 years I was governor. We saw revenue almost every month and every fiscal year well above the estimate. And so it wasn't, having a cushion wasn't as greatly needed, but having watched revenue be $400 million short last year and $500 million short this year, it is clear to me that we should abide by the 98% rule. And I will just say to you directly, I will oppose any legislation that attempts to waive the 98% rule. That I hope both the House and the Senate will abide by the 2% set aside so that we've got some cushion and protection. Some people said in the meeting today quite correctly, it is far better for our departments and agencies and our schools to know at the beginning of the year they're going to have a lower amount of money, and then if they have to adjust up, than to start off thinking they're going to get more money than they really are and have to adjust down. That's been very clear this year, and I think it makes the case to protect the 2% set aside and only appropriate 98% of anticipated revenue. Also, this shortfall makes very plain that our department heads and agency directors, our school leaders, to the degree they are covered, need to have lump sum budgeting. They need to have more management flexibility in how to manage their budgets and also how to right size their departments and agencies. The Senate has passed legislation that would give departments and agencies lump sum budgeting and would also take those departments and agencies that are under personnel board regulation out from under those regulations so that department heads can react more quickly and more effectively to the cuts that are being forced on them. Let me remind you all that these budget cuts are mandated by law, that if the revenue falls short of the estimates upon which the appropriations were based, then the governor shall, not the governor may, the governor shall make cuts in order to get the budget in balance. The governor, you may recall, though it's been months ago, the governor's allowed to cut any department or agency account by up to 5%. But before any department or agency can be cut more than 5%, every department of agency or agency that is not exempt must be cut 5%. After that, the cuts have to be the same. The cut that will take place today will be a cut of 9.47%, I believe. That's up from 8.7%. I will remind you that certain things are exempt. The legislature has exempted itself, but the governor's office is not exempt. My budget's been cut 8.7% this year, and it's now about to be cut enough more that by the end of the year the cut will equal 9.5%. I will remind you, when you only have 3 months left for departments and agencies, it makes it harder to save even 0.8% or whatever this is. That's about what it is. But to do that, you have to cut spending 3.2% because you only got 3 months or 1 quarter within to achieve the savings. So my budget's been cut from the beginning, just like everybody else's. Debt service is exempt. The legislature is exempt by legislation. The Supreme Court is exempt by Supreme Court ruling. Most everybody else is covered. There are a series of exempt special funds that are exempted by legislation. But my point is, I have no choice about how much to cut one agency versus another. All of them have to be cut the same percentage.